So the big question is this: how do aspiring real estate investors like us escape from the rat race and build real wealth and freedom without access to millions of dollars in investment capital and start to live the life that we know we deserve? This is the question, and this podcast will give you the answer. My name is Zack Childress, and welcome to Real Estate Investing Talk Show. So the topic today is really how, we have it written, how to present multiple offers. But the point is there's 6 main offer types that you can present on every single deal. Now, why would we present multiple offers? It's because multiple offers give the sellers options. It gives them an option, but what else it really does, if you truly dial it in, it helps the seller realize what their options are and why the offer you want them to take is better. This is why we need to know all 6 main offer types so that we can present the offers to them to where it justifies the offer that we want. And that's why we do multiple offer options, right? And so let's dig into them a little bit. So there's 6 of them. I'm just going to start going down the list with you so you get an idea of them. When we are talking about presenting multiple offers, we're talking about how do we get the seller to acknowledge the offer we really want. Let's say your offer is a cash offer. Well, obviously that would be one of the options. Now we're going to talk about 6. If you're just joining us, I'm not telling you to put 6 options in a contract and say, here, look, pick one. They're going to be confused. It's too much explanation, but you should at least use 2, 3, maybe 4 in some cases to make sure that they understand what their options are and what they have to do to get that higher price point, or if they don't want to sell at all, what their options are. Remember, we're here to serve. Obviously, we want to create win-win situations, but if we can't create a win-win situation, we at least want to leave them and say, well, look, if you can't do these for us to work together, well, then at least now you know what your options are if you're going to go do it on your own. And that is really what it boils down to help you make more money. So the very first option, let's say we have a seller's motivated verbally, the property needs some work, but we're going to talk to the seller about laying out some options, right? So let's talk about the very first option. We always start the offer with the very one, which is, Mr. Seller or Mrs. Seller, look, one of your options is you could list it with a realtor. You could call an agent, have them come out and have them list the property. Now you have to be prepared for showings and open houses and, intrusion into your private space. And who knows how long that's going to take. I mean, it could take 3-4 months to find a buyer. Then they have to get funding, and that could take another 30, maybe 60 days to get closed. You could be 3 to 6 months out before it closes. And let's talk about that, Mr. Seller. So if you wanted to sell at retail right now in its as-is condition, this is about the price point you could get. But then let's start helping them understand the numbers. And so we call it a net proceeds sheet. So if you sold it with a realtor, here's your real estate commissions, here's your closing fees, here's your time on market, meaning extra payments every month, utility payments, mortgage payment, taxes, insurance. Here's what all of that consists of. And then when you do sell it, they might want a concession. They might want you to pay 1 or 2% concession to them because the property needs work. So once we take that total and we subtract all that out, this is what you would really be left with in its as-is condition 4, 5, 6 months down the road, Mr. Seller. So now they're starting to understand, okay, well, that's going to take some time. And, that's a lot less than what I thought I was going to get. But I just want you to understand, Mr. Seller, this is really what you would, end up with at the end. And minus out, your mortgage debt on the property, this is what you'd be left with. Now you could take them into option 2, especially if it needs a lot of work. Option 2 is Mr. Seller. Now this is if you fixed it up. So if you fix this property up, if you put $30,000 or $40,000 into this property and you turned around and put it on the market, now you could get what the going price is for fixed up properties. Now let's minus everything out again, minus out our closing fees, our commissions. We start going through the net sheet again. And now this is what you're left with that sale. And then we do a comparison. So we say, look, you're going to make an extra $10,000 doing it this way, but you had to put $40,000 into it. And that's when we always look at the seller and we say, are you in a position to put $40,000 into this property to make that extra $10,000? Well, I didn't think about that. I didn't look at it that way. Exactly. This is why, these are two options: sell it as is or fix it up and sell it. Now, in some cases, you may never show them the sell it as is because it does need a lot of work, and you might just show them, hey, here's one option for you: sell it with a realtor after you fix it up, after you put $30,000 to $40,000 into it. And do you have those types of resources? No, I don't. Okay, well, then that's not an option for you. Now you can move on down and start figuring out other options that would make sense to put in your presentation. For instance, one of those options is we will present, look, if you don't have the resources to do this with an agent, well, one of your options, Mr. Seller, is you could just hold it and rent it out, and does it cash flow? What's your mortgage payment on this property, versus what it would rent for in the area? And do you want to be a landlord? Do you want to handle those, late night calls and deal with the tenants and maybe some evictions and maybe they damage the property? Is that something you want to do? Now, you could go with a property management company, but then that's going to eat more into the actual rent that you're getting. You have to take 10% off of that. And then we run the numbers with them. We say, look, take your rent, take out your debt services, your taxes and insurance, take out your management fee, take out a reserve account. So if they do damage the property, and here's what you're left with, $25 a month. Do you want that? Do you want to manage your property and be a landlord for $25 a month? No, I don't want that at all. I don't want to be a landlord. I just want it gone. Okay, so then that's not an option. Now, here's a fourth option for them, especially if they're in a tight. Now, this may not be an option you put on every contract, but if the seller may be behind on payments or struggling to keep up, might have some arrearages, one of the options we always present is, hey, look, if you're just done with it and we can't figure out a win-win situation, then in that scenario, you might be best off doing a deed in lieu of foreclosure. And just giving it back to the bank, walk away from it, not worry about it. Now, the good with that, Mr. Seller, is you won't have a foreclosure on your credit, but you will have a debt settled, and it will show up as a debt settled, and that will affect your credit moving into the future if you wanted to buy something else. So we walk them, as you can see, that's 4 options right there. Now, obviously, the deed in lieu option wouldn't work if the seller was in good standing with the bank, no arrearages, was okay with their payments. They just, might need a lot of work and they don't want to deal with that. So that might not be an option that we present every time. But the point is we always present one or two. Number 1 or number 2, we're always presenting, whether that's sell it as is with an agent or sell it after you put money and you fix it up. But the reason we do that is because we want them to understand what it takes to get that price that they want from that property and what they're really left with. That's why we do what's called a net proceeds workout with them. And we show them, hey, look, if you sold it, minus commissions, minus resale and closing fees, minus all these other things, carrying costs, utility payments, mortgage payments, all of that stuff, this is what you'd really be left with. So now they're thinking, okay, well, I see that. And so let's say that workout sheet left them with, I don't know, $20,000 in an actual check. That moves them closer in their mindset of working with us. Let's say we're going to do a cash offer, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. But now they're starting to see why we are where we are, because it helps us justify if our ultimate goal is to buy cash or our ultimate goal is to buy through an option. One of these 4, because you're always going to end with the last 2, an option or a buy cash, right? But one of the 4 that we just talked about, you're always going to want to include one of those in or 2 of those in when you're presenting a multiple option offer. And let me just help you understand why that's important, because There are a ton of wholesalers trying to make it in the market today. And I've been doing this 16 years and I see it all the time. They all rush in when the market's hot. They don't make it. They rush out when the market turns. Wholesaling is becoming harder and harder because there's so many people trying to do it. But the other side of it is that the wholesaler is making typically one offer. And that is a cash discounted offer. No other options, no other explanation, no other do this and this is what you get. Do this and this is what you get. When you're presenting a multiple option offer, what you're really doing is you're saying, look, I just want to help educate you whether we work together or not. I want you to know what all your options are in this scenario. What are all your options? These are your options that you can actually go and do on your own, or this is how I can help you when we work together. And so it builds this level of trust. It builds this level of education for the seller who may not have been aware of all these things that are included in the sale of a property or the time frame. Because some sellers, they may look at your options and say, yeah, I got those resources. I think I'm just going to fix it up and sell it myself. Great. Because here's why. They can do it. They understand it. Trying to get them to sell to you at a discount when they've got 40 grand in the bank to fix the property up, keep up with the payments and sell it is a very clear moment in that negotiation that they don't need your offer. But the beauty is that you've built a relationship with them and helped them make a decision that would work for them. So let's say that they don't sell it in 4 months and now they're in a hardship. Now all their money's caught up in the deal. Guess who they're going to call? They're going to call you. Now, you can no longer do a cash offer because, right, they've got too much money in the deal. But now we can present an option finance type structure with them to be able to help them in their debt relief. So it's all about serving, right? Serve and be rewarded for the service that you provide. And that's why we say we're a service providing investing community. That's what we do. We provide value through serving, whether that be showing them options or helping them out of their situation, but the value comes from that. So it comes from that. I got a lot more people chiming in. Aria says hello. Dennis says hello from Topeka. Mary Wolf from San Diego. Talon says hello. Manny says, how about seller financing? 3 ways to make money. Yes, that's more of a personal gain. We wouldn't sit down with the seller and say, hey, do this seller financing and I can make money 3 ways. We don't really talk about that, but that is in the 5 and the 6 option. Guy says, what if we are getting the deal not directly from the seller, but from a real estate agent? How to approach the deal? It's the same way, Guy. I look, it's the exact same way. I can't tell you how many times I've got my agents to present multiple offers and get deals. I mean, I got a commercial building that way. I presented multiple offers. Here's my cash offer, right? Here's this offer and here's this offer. Ultimately, I wanted them to take the cash offer, but if they wouldn't, I was okay with the finance offer, and they took one of the finance offers with a 3% interest rate. Great. Perfect. Let's roll. Either way, when you stack multiple options, you can build the options to give you, the 2 deals that you want out of it. If I wanted to present, more of a cash offer or a terms offer that I was willing to accept either one, I would stack the offer with 4 options. 2 is if you do it yourself, 3 is if you did this, or 1 if you did it yourself, 2 if you did this, and then I would stack 3 and 4 into my favor. Hey, here's how you could just walk away, not deal with anything. I take over the debt. Or here, if you just want to walk away and not have to worry about any longer relationship with me, then here's my cash offer. So it puts them in a mindset of really realizing what their real options are. A lot of times sellers don't even know what their options are. For example, there's a lot of sellers out there with like 5% of equity, maybe 10% of equity in their property. And a lot of them can't, when you present them with selling through a realtor, they can't do it because the realtor's commission and closing fees and all that, and maybe some repair allowance, doesn't allow them to sell the property at that value. So what it ends up telling the seller is they've got to bring money to the table. They've got to bring money to the table to get that property closed. And they just can't do that. So they're like looking at that option. They're like, yeah, that sounds great, but I just can't do it. So then you take them into the other option. Let's say that they've got a little bit of equity and they might be behind on payments. Well, then I would move them into the deed in lieu of foreclosure option. Well, no, I don't want to do that. Okay, great. Then I would lead them into my option control offer and my cash offer. And I'd say, so here's really your 4 offers, right? Or let's say that it wasn't that they were behind. I would present them with the selling it with an agent. And if they didn't have a lot of equity in it, they look at it and say, well, look, I don't, I'm going to have to come to the table with money to close it that way. Okay, great. Well, then here's your other option. Rent it out, be a landlord, and then I would walk through the good and the bad of being a landlord. Well, no, I don't want to do that. Okay, well then great. Here's 2 other options, which lead me into 4 and 5. Ultimately, I'm taking them into 4 and 5. These top 4 that I told you about, these are the options that the seller can do. Now they can do it on their own. They don't need you for those 1 through 4, but ultimately I'm putting in those options, the multiple options 5 and 6, because those are the 2 that I'm okay. Either one of them I'll take. And so offer number 5 is an option control. This is where we tell the seller, hey, look, the property's worth $200,000. You owe $190 on it. Obviously, you can't do selling it with an agent. You'd have to bring money to the table, and you don't want to do a deed in foreclosure. I get it. So my option offer allows me to pay you the $290 for it, basically taking over the payment on the property so you don't go into foreclosure, and we have a later date to purchase. I can pay you more with this option. And what it does for you is it allows you to walk away without making any more payments, not worrying about going into foreclosure, not worrying about the debt. We'll put a lease with the purchase agreement together. Now you could do offer 5 with a lease option, a wrap mortgage, a subject to. You could do it with all kinds of things, right? But the point is option 5 is about control. It's about a terms control. However you structure that would be your skill set and your knowledge base. And then I offer 6, right? Which is the last one. Now, if you don't like this terms agreement, which means, yes, the debt still stays in your name, but we have a long-term lease with the option to buy the property, I can pay you cash at a discount. But here's the reality. If they owe $190 on a property worth $200, that cash offer is obviously a no. So if you presented them 4 in that scenario, they owe $190, it's worth $200. You presented them 4 offers. Sell with an agent. Can't do it. I'd have to bring money to the table. Do a deed in lieu of foreclosure. I don't want to ruin my credit. Okay, I can do an option with you where we put a terms program together. I'll pay you the $290 at a later date, but we're going to leave the loan in place. Or I can give you cash of $115,000. Well, I can't do that. Well, there's 3 of those 4 they can't do, which means there's 1 that they can do, which is the option, right? So it leads them to get real clear on what they actually can do with the property. Now, let's say they look at all of that and they say, well, I really don't want to do that. That's when I would throw back in offer number 3. I would say, well, look, then you could hold it as a rental property, but here, let's weigh out the odds of this. If you held it as a rental property, you would be responsible for all the tenants, the management, the maintenance of the property, anything that goes wrong. If you did a long-term lease with the option to buy, I'm responsible for all that. So you get the benefits of being a landlord without the headaches. Oh, I see. So even in this scenario, if I presented them with all 6 offers, it still leads them into the 5th offer, which is controlling the property with terms. Okay. And that's what's important, is understanding options when it comes to our multiple options, when it comes to making multiple offers. Now, if there's equity in the property, then obviously I'm okay if they take the terms or the cash offer, right? And so I'm going to present them with, hey, you could sell it with an agent, and this is what you'd end up with. You could, fix it up, or if you're not behind on payments, you could hold it as a rental property and be a landlord if you wanted that. But then I'm also going to present the last 2 that I want. Now, Ms. Sutton, I want to be clear. I can buy properties one of 2 ways. These top 3 that I presented you is something you could do on your own without me. But these last 2 is something that I could help you with. I buy properties one of 2 ways: all cash at a discount. We're going to talk about that. Or I could pay you more for the properties with a terms program where we leave, the loan in place and I take over the payments. Okay, great. Well, what do those look like? Well, here's what they look like. Here's my terms program. I would secure this property for the next 5 years. I'd become the responsible party for anything that goes wrong with the property. I'd have the rights to sublease, which allows me to sandwich lease option the property to a tenant buyer if I want. I'd walk through and explain everything to them. And I'd say, look, you're getting all these benefits, but I can pay you more for the property just at a later date. So let's say they owe $115. I could tell them, hey, with this, I could pay you $120 or $130 or $140 for the property, but you wouldn't get that until we close. Okay, I understand. But now my cash offer allows you to move on right now, allows you to walk away as is, no work, no real estate commissions, no closing fees, no time on market, no making any more payments, none of that. We can close this property in the next 2 to 3 weeks, and my cash offer would represent that. When I present the cash offer, I reiterate them selling with an agent with fixing up the property. I basically put them side by side. I say, look, this is if you sold it with an agent with everything that was entailed in that property and all the payments, the whole time, everything, then pay off the debt you owe the lender. And this is what you're left with, $20,000. Let's just use that example. Let's say they owe $115. Now, if they sold it on their own and they fixed it up, they'd be able to pay all that off and have $20,000. So that's $135 really, because they owe the lender $115. But we'd have to show, look, you're going to have to put $30,000, maybe $40,000 into this property. And the question is do you have that or can you get that? And so that leads me to the cash offer, Mr. Seller, because with the cash offer, it's as is. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to wait on the market for that buyer, because that's the headache. I always say that. That's the headache I'm going to have now. You don't have to worry about showing it or being, evasion of your privacy, people looking through your closets and bathrooms. You don't have to worry about any of that. And you don't have to let it sit on the market. You don't have to pay any more taxes on the property for the proration when you sell it. You have no more utility bills. You have none of that. So in reality, you have less headache. But my cash offer on this property, Mr. Seller, would be, let's just say $126, would be $126. Now, yes, if you went and sold it on your own and you fixed it up and you did all of that and you waited the next 4 to 6 months for that perfect buyer, yes, you could get $135, which means you would make $20,000 in that scenario, versus in mine, you'd only make $11,000. That is a $9,000 difference, but what's the value of your freedom? What's the value of you being at peace and moving on, right? And that's really where we're honing that offer down, is narrowing it down and justifying why the cash offer makes sense versus them selling it. And so guys, when you're looking at your lead flow and you're looking at the leads you have, be a property specialist. Like, specialize in how to structure the deal to where there's multiple ways for you to close. And be a servant. Like, show them, like, say, look, this is what you would have to do if you sold it on your own, so that they're clear on it. Because I'm here to tell you, when you present a cash offer, most sellers have no understanding, or even in their mind, they can't even justify why you wanted to pay $126 for a property that's worth $200,000. And this allows you to be able to explain that in a way that it's non-evasive. It's not aggressive. It's just an educational process that you're taking them through. And I promise you, you will convert more leads out of the leads you're already getting if you present it this way. So, all right. Hey guys, I hope you've enjoyed the show. I'm telling you, if you implement this today, it will be a game changer in your business. Multiple options when it comes to making offers. Control the avenue where a seller can go by demonstrating to them what their options really are. Like, we don't have to be convincing, like, this is what you have to take. This is the only thing that's good. No. Like, be transparent. Show them. Here's all the things you can do. Here's all your options. These are the two I can help you on, though. I can pay you more on this one, or I can get you out of the property with no hassles, as is, move on and do what you need to do with this offer. Either way, you still win because you're being a servant. So, hey, it's Zack Childress here. Thanks for joining us again on the Real Estate Investing Talk Show. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see you again real soon on the flip side. Bye now. You've been listening to the Real Estate Investing Talk Show. I'm Zack Childress, and I'm on a mission to create 10,000 real estate bosses over the next year. Will you be one of them? Head over to my website, reisuccessacademy.com/web class, and register for my free web class where you'll discover how to escape from the 9-to-5 grind and become your own boss in real estate. See you there.